Back in 2020 and looking forward to 2021, I commented that I felt there was a weariness, a tiredness with Rolex growing. And I have seen that continue through 2021. One of the ways that's manifested is a lot of people looking for alternatives. The brand, not just an alternative watch to buy, but looking to find the brand that's going to push Rolex off the throne. A lot of those people have begun to focus on Omega as a possibility. I think that could be done. The numbers would suggest, the history would suggest that Omega could be that company. Except I think they've got a mindset that would prevent them from actually making that move. And I think we can see evidence of that mindset in how some of their watches have been executed over the last little while. I want to talk about that now. Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. And as I said, there's a lot of people who are talking on the net at the moment about how Omega, some people are using Grand Seiko, but most are focusing on Omega and how they could be the company that would push Rolex off the throne. I agree that it could be done. I'm not sure that Omega or the Swatch group in particular even want that to occur, but let's just pretend for a second that it is something that they would want to do. This is something that's important to them. I don't think, whilst they have the potential, I don't think the way they're behaving, I don't think their mindset, I don't think the Swatch management approach is going to facilitate that right now. I think that they are too quick to, on one hand, try and raise perceived quality, but they're reluctant to give up profit. They're reluctant to give up cash. And so they always end up making a decision that at the same time drags quality down. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. But before we get into it, let's have a look at the state of play and figure out exactly what would Omega need to do if it wanted to get in front. Okay, so recent figures coming out, they're in monochrome, and I've seen them in a few other places, and I'll have some references and links in the show notes below. Recent figures would indicate that nothing much has changed. Rolex sits on top of the hill with around about 25% of the value of Swiss watch exports to itself. Omega in its traditional place of number 2 at 9-ish something percent. Compounding that, if you look at the numbers of watches that people estimate that the two brands sold, and then work backwards, it would look like the average price of Rolex is making around about 10,000 francs per watch it sells, and Omega's only making about 5,500 Swiss francs. So what that means is for Omega to overtake Rolex, it has to do two things at once. It has to both sell more watches and double the value of the watches it's selling. Really tricky. And it can only be done if you have a huge commitment to quality and raising the value of your watches. And this is where the problem comes for Omega. Now, this has been a long-standing problem, and I suspect that Omega has been taking steps to try and remedy this for some time. I'm going to go back, you could probably go back further, but I'm going to go back to 2014, because I think if you look at some decisions made since 2014, you can kind of see the issue here. So in around about 2014, you can see Omega making a really big decision to increase quality, introduce the METAS certification, which is probably the single most rigorous set of tests any mass-produced watch is subjected to, and some of the best quality assurance we are given. Covers everything from extraordinary levels of accuracy, a whole bunch of robustness, reliability, anti-magnetism, a huge number of things. And if you dive into that, battery of tests that require lots and lots of new machinery, almost certainly a fair bit of human interaction, getting into watches, switching them around, recording, etc., etc. And that is not going to be cheap. Except Omega gave it to us for free. They made a commitment to not incorporate the price of any of this into their watches. So far, happy days. But on the other hand, this is where the Swatch mindset gets in the way, because I strongly suspect that whilst they gave on one hand, they took away on the other. Because if you look at sort of reports about Omega quality and satisfaction, they've kind of had some problems since around about 2014. Now I'm going to focus a lot on bracelets today. There's been some commentary about cases and other things, but right now I'm going to talk about bracelets, because you know what? Making a great bracelet is expensive. Making a good bracelet, one that's comfortable and nice and so forth, that's pretty cheap. You can do that for a couple $100, maybe less. Making a great bracelet, if you look at what the brands charge us for great bracelets, they're not cheap. They cost a bit. They're a place where if you've just spent a lot of money on this fancy new quality management system, you could conceivably save that money back. You could claw that back by going a little cheap on the bracelet. In 2014, at the same time as we're getting the METAS standard, if you look at the forums, you start to see people starting to comment about where is my Omega bracelet coming from. You start seeing receipts showing that the point of origin for replacement links, etc., is China. This becomes something of a common theme. Do research on the forums and you start to see more people complaining about quality issues, fit, finish, and so forth. Bring that forward to today, and those complaints are still there. The two cats on 10 and 2 in a recent podcast talking about how much they love their watch. They're Seamasters and Speedmasters, but at the same time, they're both bemoaning how the quality of the bracelets just, not only is it not up to Rolex standards, it doesn't even seem to be as good as Omega used to do. So even people that have got Omega watches, that love their watches, are talking about how the quality just doesn't seem to be there. And as I said, in the background hum, you've got this question about where the bracelets are coming from. I would also note that in accordance with the FH definition of Swissness, a bracelet is not considered part of the watch for the purposes of calculating the value of the watch and therefore whether it is considered Swiss. So in the way the rules are written, you could have a watch, if you had a watch head, imagine a watch head that was 100% made in Switzerland, but then you fitted it a bracelet that was 100% made in China, your watch is 100% Swiss. The bracelet doesn't factor into this at all. So playing with the bracelet quality, relocating where that's made is something that a watch brand can do without really challenging its Swissness at all. It gives the brand a lot of flexibility to make decisions about where to outsource other bits as well, given how much a great bracelet is likely to cost. All of this really came to a head, in my mind, very recently with two videos that were done by Oshin from Timeless Watch channel. Did one a couple of weeks ago where he said, don't buy the new Speedmaster, which got a lot of criticism. In there, he was very critical of case and bracelet finish, talking about sharp, harsh edges, hot spots on the bracelet, that sort of thing. He copped an absolute pounding for it. Didn't back down. He's come back and reiterated it in a more recent video and said, you know, you can argue as much as you want, but the truth is it just doesn't seem to be as good. And as I said earlier, he's not alone. Do a search on the internet and you find this a fairly common complaint. So here's the issue that Omega's got. On one hand, they have to raise quality, which they're doing, but on the other hand, they don't want to give up profit. So for every time they raise a quality in terms of meta certification or dial finish or something, it appears they're trying to take away from us somewhere else, so that they're trying to both grow but also maintain today's profit. And if you do that, you are not going to catch Rolex. You are not going to get where you need to be. This brings me to the end of sort of the whole conclusion of this video. Could Omega catch and pass Rolex and take over the throne? Yes, they could. What would it take more than anything else? it would take the Swatch group to give up this kind of penny pinching. It's going to cost them real money. They're going to have to make decisions to raise the quality of their watches without taking it away somewhere else, without trying to outsource it to somewhere else where they're getting lesser quality and trying to sneak it in. As long as they are doing that, they will stay number two. That mindset is why they are number two. And unless they change and find a new way, find a new commitment, then we all better get used to talking about Rolex being the king for another couple of decades, because nothing's going to change. That's my take. I know I'm looking at one very thin slither with a very small sample size, and I'm relying a lot on conjecture. Do you think I'm onto something? Do you think that Omega is kind of only going at this half-hearted, and for everything they give us, they're taking something away? Or do you think I've got this completely wrong, and that there's nothing wrong with the Omega quality, and all those people complaining have kind of missed something? Before I go on, what I should say is I have no dog in this fight. I don't care about what the outcome is. I don't own a single Rolex or a single Omega. If I look at the list of watches I intend to buy over the next couple of years, I don't have an Omega or a Rolex on my list. I watch these guys because I love watching the industry, even though I don't have anything in particular invested in either brand. So I just won't accept any kind of claim that I'm fanboying on this. Like I said, I just won't accept it. So anyway, I'm interested in your thoughts. If you think I'm on the money, got an idea, stick them below. If you think I'm completely wrong, stick them below. But if you do think I'm completely wrong, tell me why. Where is your opinion coming from? I'd really love to know. Anyway, like I said, I think I might have already said, I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches. I'll see you later. Bye.